Okay, so with Colin Kaepernick, it's been an exciting week for him, and today we want to just do a recap on everything that's happened this week and how the Colin Kaepernick story shows that America is not equipped in any way to deal with racial issues. So, if you've been following Colin Kaepernick, as most of America has, what's happened recently is that Colin Kaepernick is getting criticism from various NFL players like Jerry Rice, Ronnie Harrison questioned whether he was black, Drew Brees, and then other NFL players. But he's also gotten support from others, including some teammates. And Roland Martin talked about it on MSNBC. And I think this is a point I want to bring up because we always try to figure out how can we move the story forward without rehashing. I think it's important to mention here because you've seen that we met through Black Lives Matter. We've talked about that many times here, that Colin Kaepernick's, the response to his protest shows just how much America does not want to deal with racial issues in this country. I mean, can you believe that nobody's actually talking about police brutality with his protest? They're talking about everything else but that?
They're talking about him. You know, because that's the conversation that they want to have, right? They ultimately, whenever we talk about civil liberties, right, they always shift the conversation onto the oppressed. It always shifts the conversation onto the victim. It's similar to the way that we treat rape victims, for instance, and why rape victims don't want to come out sometimes because they fear being ostracized by the public. They fear being treated as if they are the guilty party. It's the same thing with racial issues as well, or any civil injustice for that matter. Whenever we talk about them, instead of having the conversation about the honest grievances people are having,
why he's protesting,
they want to talk about that he's protesting. And I just want to cite the irony here. And I mean, you guys have seen this on Facebook. It's funny that, you know, for the longest time they were calling Black Lives Matter members rioters, and that they weren't protesting the right way. They need to protest like Dr. King and be more civil and quiet. The guy's just sitting down. He's just sitting down.
Hasn't said a word.
He hasn't said a word to anybody.
And did this for multiple games and only answered the question when they asked him.
It's not like he walked out into the field, like, you know.
and just said, ah!
Yeah, right.
Black Lives Matter! Like, he didn't do that. He just sat down. And I find it interesting that they've attacked everything. Just like you said, they attack him. And whether he's black enough. His birth mother criticized him on Twitter. He's adopted. Like, I couldn't even believe that gumption. They attack saying that he's against the military, he's against the flag, he's against the country. Somebody made a great point online saying that the response to him, the criticism has not been patriotism, it's been nationalism.
Yeah.
Which I think ties into the rise of Donald Trump, but that's a whole other video for another time. They've talked about everything with him except the police brutality itself. And here's the thing. If this were 5 years ago, I'd be a little bit more forgiving of people like Some Black Guy and Blaire White.
Ooh, shots fired.
And all these other people on YouTube and in reality who say, well, what proof do you have this is an issue? Now it is just ignorant and unacceptable. Because it is. Because to take that position means you didn't look at the Baltimore DOJ report. You didn't look at the Ferguson DOJ report. You're not looking at any of the instances that show, like, you're not looking at the Washington Post, who tracks people who die by police, and seeing that black people make up a small percentage of the population, but make up like 25% of people killed. You didn't read the reports. You didn't watch the videos. What did Philando Castile do wrong? What did Alton Sterling do wrong? Sandra Bland, Rakia Boyd, Tamir Rice, Kane Rogers. The list goes on. What did they do wrong? And then you have people like Some Black Guy, like, oh, well, you know, some police brutality sucks. No, it doesn't suck. Go talk to the parents of the people who've been killed and tell me that, it sucks.
It sucks.
When people say Black Lives Matter is trash, you're right. So when Black Lives Matter is out protesting, you have a problem with them shutting down highways. Then a guy sits down at the national anthem and y'all want to rip him because he's saying America has issues. And Colin Kaepernick did it right. He called people out. He said that a cosmetician has more training with a curling iron than a police officer does with a gun. Hadn't heard one person critique him on that. Nope. Everybody wants to attack everything else. And this shows you that this is not a fair, genuine argument that's going on. Because if it were, we'd be talking about facts. And everybody I've heard who has opposed him, not one fact.
Not one fact.
Not one. And people are talking about his right to do it. That's not up for debate. Nobody's talking about rights. We're talking about deaths at the hands of police. And that's why I'm calling it now. I'm going to call it right now. If he makes the roster, if they win games, and if he gets white supporters, nobody will criticize him the same way.
Yeah,
I'm calling it. They will then switch the attack to the NFL. Yeah. And they will try to pressure the NFL to force changes. And let me just add nothing. I know you're about to say something, but let me just add one more thing. Everybody says he's un-American for his protest. Did you think that Ben Roethlisberger was un-American for allegedly raping a girl? Was Greg Hardy un-American for beating his girlfriend? Did you think that Michael Vick was un-American? Because when I see NFL players actually hurting people and actually doing domestic violence, y'all still watch them. But when a guy sits down at the Pledge of Allegiance, bashing him. Go ahead, because I could go.
The flag doesn't mean the same for everyone. The flag has a different interpretation.
Thank you.
For who it's a symbol, and that symbol has a different interpretation for whoever is gazing upon it, based on their life experiences and based on their ethnic background and the ethnic background's experiences with that symbol. So, I mean, I'm interested in, just like what you were saying earlier, how is this going to go on? So, if he gets white supporters, if he gets supporters of other NFL players, which he is, what's the name of the NFL? I'm terrible with football, guys. What's the name of the NFL player? That's word.
He's got a couple. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it.
Yeah, but there are other.
But he's getting different. I think his name is Mike Tavares. Jeremy Lane with Seattle. There's been guys. He had a teammate of his who's actually standing with him. So I think as time goes on, he may actually get more.
I'm going to make a prediction. Media is going to black this thing out pretty soon.
Yeah,
they're gonna pop the lid on this thing pretty soon. They're going to want people to not talk about this. And what's going to happen? You're going to see a major controversy on the news. I don't know. Maybe another plane is going to go missing. Maybe there's going to be another shooting, and they're going to cover that. Maybe there's going to be something they're going to use to distract you from this story because they don't want to talk about it anymore. Because if there is a trend, if a trend starts from Colin Kaepernick's silent, peaceful protest, then the NFL has a $1 trillion problem on their hands.
Yes, it does. And I think you see a problem with people like Cam Newton, who I like and who I respect, but I have a problem with his approach in this. And he did an Esquire, or GQ, I think it was Esquire, interview where he tried to act like, we're all one race, is what he said recently. We shouldn't get caught up in what this eighth of skin dictates as far as differences. And I think he's trying to play that card of, I don't want to be controversial.
Yeah.
And that's his choice. I understand. But this is also the same guy who got criticized and dogged for a year because he was dancing. You think a white guy would have got criticized for dabbing like that? You think a white guy would have got criticized in his hometown in the newspaper for having a child out of wedlock?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
So what I find here, I think people need to be careful. Like Cam Newton, I really hope he just stops saying things. Because I'm not saying that he can't say what he wants. I'm just saying it's not really helpful. Exactly. And I think it would just be better if he didn't even address the issue.
Well, what they're trying to do is, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to split the ranks, right? That's why they're attacking Colin Kaepernick on his character. That's why they're breaking up his parents and him being adopted and everything. They're trying to delegitimize him being a black person.
Oh, don't even let me get started with that.
Once people start figuring something out, that a lot of the NFL players just happen to be black, and that this movement catches on like wildfire, guess what? You got $1 billion problem on your hands. That's Bothersome Truth.
That's been us.
Hope you enjoyed our dose of Bothersome Truth. We are constantly prescribing the medicine of truth. If you have any suggestions or would like to have your truth explored on the show, email us at bothersometruth@gmail.com. The best way to get your next dose is to subscribe, share our truth with your friends and family, and we can save the world together.